have been doing. Part of our plan to outreach, to have these sort of town meeting kind of sessions. We're trying something in terms of coming to you, coming to your zip code. We'll be at every zip code in town ultimately. A couple of just welcome points. Just want to let you know, we kind of go macro and micro. I was yesterday with Secretary Jay Ash at the Waquesit One Cape consortium with all the Cape leaders. My colleagues Doug Brown and Sam Patterson were there as well, just really raising to the state level issues that we have in Falmouth, whether it's where's the money for the bike path that we were promised, or what else can we do with housing, what else can we do to get more sustainability and young folks who want to stay here and keep Falmouth vibrant and affordable. So that's one thing that we're doing. We're going to start the meeting today. I'll just I'm going to in a minute introduce my colleagues who organized this, Megan English Braga and Doug Brown. We also all take turns kind of chairing the outreach. A couple of housekeeping points. If anyone is recording, we want to be sure that you let us know and that you stay in one place so we don't have people that feel like they're being chased by cameras. Is there anyone who is recording? Okay, thank you. Anybody else who's recording? Thank you.
I will be at some point.
Okay, from one position.
Okay.
Thank you. And so we just want to express gratitude is the most important thing. We can do our jobs better if we hear directly from you. As many times as we're out and about in town, hearing things and welcoming that you come up and say, oh, can I just ask you one quick question? Can I just tell you I'm thinking about something, I know you're not here for that. That's totally appreciated by all of us in the most wholehearted way. But for today, we want to hear from you. We want to hear not just town meeting members. Let us know what your ideas are, what you think could be better, what you think's working, what might not be working. Maybe you've heard of something. The reason that the Selectmen go to lots of events and we like to collaborate with other communities to hear there might be a better mousetrap. There might be a less expensive way of doing things. With that, I'm sure that my colleague Megan English Braga is going to fill in whatever I might have not said. And thank you for your time. We're grateful for it. Thank you for leaving your guests, leaving your kids, coming here. It's a beautiful facility, but we really appreciate and consider it a gift to us. Thank you.
So this feels sort of like it's like a boxing ring or something like that, but maybe that's not a good metaphor. But good morning, my name is Megan English Braga. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Selectmen. I just want to start by thanking St. Anthony's and thanking Father Avila for allowing us to have this space. Some of you have asked why we aren't across the parking lot down below, and the reason for that was that the church wanted to make sure that space was available if there was a funeral. There isn't one today, but obviously you can't plan those, so the Father, when he was gracious enough to let us come and use this space, that was the one condition, was that we use the space. So I know it's a little bit cozy. I think that speaks volumes to the great turnout we've had on a Saturday. I know there are many activities in town today, but we have been really pushing since February when we had the first live survey to follow up so we can make sure we open it up to some of our summer residents who weren't able to be there, or folks who worked the last time who weren't able to come to the event in February. So this is really a continuation of that conversation. And for anyone who wasn't able to attend, just a reminder of kind of what the format is. Essentially, this is really an opportunity for you to have the Board of Selectmen. There's also town administrators here, many department heads captive to hear from you. It's not a place for debate or back and forth, because that really, what we have found, limits the number of people who get to share their thoughts and their concerns. So what we have is David Vieira. I don't know where he went, but he's right there. David has offered. We reached out to him because we were thinking it'd be another opportunity to have a great collaboration between town leadership and our state representative, because so many of the issues that we know we're going to hear about, we can't just take on or fix as a town, but we need that representation, we need that advocacy at the state level. And so we thought it was a good opportunity for more collaboration. David's going to be our facilitator. What he has are some prompts for conversation, that are very general that we put together. It's exactly the same format as in February to help start that conversation. We're going to go through the prompts. We'll give about 10 minutes for each prompt for people to share in. Phyllis Downey is recording everything, and so we are very thankful she's been here since early this morning. Put on the air conditioning. I know it doesn't feel like it now because the door's been open, but it'll catch up again. But she's going to take down everything that folks say. So when you get up, just please state your name because she doesn't know everyone in this room. Say who you are. You can certainly say what your precinct is. She's going to take that information down. She's going to summarize what you say, just like we did in February. And we'll put that all together and take a look at it. And we'll use that to set our agendas, to think about issues that we need to put forward for discussion, for follow-up. So it's really important that everyone here have an opportunity to share their thoughts. At the end, there'll be about 20 or 30 minutes, depending on how the conversation goes, where we'll open it up for more general comments that may not have been captured by some of the prompts. So if you have a really specific thing that you want to talk about and you don't think it fits in with the prompts, there's going to be some space at the end to have that conversation. Okay, so thank you all for being here. Thank you to Peter Johnson-Staub for making multiple runs for coffee and bagels. They didn't give him any cream or sugar this morning, so he braved Dunkin' Donuts twice on Rotary's weekend. So thank you. Again, thank you to Phyllis for being here very early. Thank you to all of you for attending, and we'll get started.
Thanks, Megan.
There are some seats for folks coming in. If you see an empty seat, please take it.
Raise your hand if you have an empty seat somewhere.
Yep. Thank you. David's not going to be able to sit down again, so someone can take his seat. Two over there.
They want to stretch their legs. All right, I'm Dave Vieira, again, state rep, town moderator, but most important, lifelong resident of Falmouth. Grew up in T-Ticket, where the T-Ticket Park is now. It used to be Joe's driving range. Joe was my grandfather. So I've lived here in East Falmouth my whole life. I got my Eagle Scout here with Troop 42, the flag over here. So this morning I thought, gee, I put on a jacket and tie to go do this moderating thing, and I thought, I remember meeting in this hall in the summer with the Boy Scouts, and boy, was it hot. And when we met here and it was hot, I said, I'm just going to wear the short sleeve polo shirt. I opened up the door and I thought, it's awful cool inside here. I got air conditioning now. So. And Joe,
You're getting old, Dave.
Joe's also reminded me that I was also with varsity Team 1 at the Falmouth Rod and Gun Club, where we're working on the Farley Bog Restoration Project with the folks up there from the Varsity Scouts. So, a quick question. How many of you are summer residents? Okay, a good number, because I know that was one of the things that the Selectmen wanted to hit on by doing one of these in the summer for folks that weren't here in February. So it's good to see a number of summer residents. How many of you are from outside of the East Falmouth area, live outside of East Falmouth? Okay, so we do have some representation from other parts of town. How many of you are from T-Ticket? How many are from Rockpoint? Nobody from Rockpoint?
Yeah.
Oh, one. Okay. How many are from East Falmouth? Hey. How many from Hatchville?
Well, yeah.
Oh. Good. So we have a good cross-section of the villages within East Falmouth. East Falmouth Core looks like it's the largest represented group here today. So let's start off with our first prompt. The first prompt is, what do you like about Falmouth that needs to be protected? This is really sort of starting from strength-based, right? What's good, what do we like, what do we want to help preserve? And then we'll talk about some issues and challenges and things that we want to change as we go forward. But for the first prompt.
Got one here.
I like the fact that we have tree-lined streets.
She likes the fact that we have tree-lined streets.
Name and
Oh, and your name, please. I want it for the record.
Dale 3.
Someone over here? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same topic, just preserving the quaintness of our town. I've written a few letters on it. I'm kind of leading in opposition to the proposed state and town DPW's plan to expand Route 28, put in another supersized intersection like Stop and Shop in front of Mara Vista and Homestead, widening the whole road to 60 feet, putting in bike lane sidewalks when even the bike people from town would rather see like a bike path, so that we safe, be on the other side of the curve. And there's growing opposition. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time in the future.
This is good, and I'm hearing, just so you all know, some of you probably in the room as well, we're hearing it in my office as the state rep about the issues related to the the state portion of this layout.
Good name.
Yep. Oh, and name again, very much.
Jim Marsha.
John Collins. I like access to the water, public beaches, as well as just access to the beautiful waterways we have here.
Tricia Maloney, I love the convenience of everything that's around us. Restaurants, shops, supermarkets, banks, you name it. You can find everything here without traveling very far.
Linda Toby, Precinct 4. I've lived here over 50 years, and I like the fact that we still have, in my estimation, a small town feeling. It's not a small town, it's a huge town, but I've always felt that it had the small town feeling of where I grew up. And another thing I really appreciate is the fact that we respect walkways where people cross the street. If you go downtown in Falmouth, people stop when somebody gets to a crosswalk. It's great, you can depend on it. You just have to be careful when you go to other towns.
I'm Mary McAdams, and I love all of the estuaries in town and would love to preserve them
And improve, right?
and improve them, yes.
I like the rate of volunteerism in the town, probably one of the highest in the state.
Name? She's waiting for a name, sorry.
Nobody's catcher.
Joe Cincinnati.
Thank you.
The quaintness of the town, the friendship with neighbors. I'm definitely gonna go tree-lined streets, cause I'm a driver shore. I didn't wash shore, I go shore. City of Lynn, and it's a box feeling. I don't like to see super highways through the town. I want to keep it quaint. So I moved here, with my family up here. So I think that's very important. Access to the beach, access to Google Park. Place where we can as taxpayers enjoy. All right, overburdened with the fees sometimes they charge, but it's part of the game, I guess. I don't like it. But I like the acquaintance, tree-lined streets, friendship, community involvement, and again, on volunteerism. You know I volunteer a lot. But the thing is that I don't want to see this become a Route 28 Yarmouth. And you're definitely gonna lose the quaintness of the village.
Housekeeping, Precinct 4. I am going to piggyback on Joe Q and a few other comments. I love the feeling of quaintness and charm in our town. I like that it's still very much a small town feel. I love the fact that I feel and consider most people in town like family or extended family. I feel confident raising our children here, and I went away to college and traveled and very much chose to come back, and I didn't want to necessarily come back to big Main Street Yarmouth or you know, I like the tree line, the small town feel, you know, I want my kids to feel safe when I let them ride their bikes.
Cheryl Williams, Precinct 3, and I'm a local girl. And what I particularly love about Falmouth is the fact of the people who are absolutely passionate and totally engaged in the land trust, the 300 committee, Salt Pond, etc., to preserve as much open space in this town as absolutely positive, so we can maintain and continue the quaintness that so many of you are talking about, which I appreciate as well.
Randy Johnson of East Falmouth. I have to be fair here and say that there's a lot more that I like about Falmouth between September and May.
That's why we're staying in East Falmouth today. We're not going downtown today.
It's just that there's just so much more. It feels like Boston in the summertime. And, you know, this kind of thing that you like to retreat from a little more, you can't do it. I shop early in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock. By that time, most people are getting up and headed for Dunkin' Donuts.
Hi, Noreen Byrne from Precinct 6. I'm concerned about the growth in town, which goes along with the concern of keeping it quaint.
Bob Donahue, Precinct 3.
more action on bike paths in the town. I think particularly at this time of year, people on bikes, I think they fall asleep or something because they drift out into traffic. And I have a Prius, which is a very quiet car, so I'm starting to just toot the horn way ahead, so to hopefully wake them up that I'm there. But I know that this is probably an impossibility, but if we could have some east-west corridors, north-south, something that would be permanent, easy exits, like a highway almost, where you could, you know, where bikes could go and be safe and not compete with
And they connect to other parts.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit. I have a separate one, but I love that one. I think where we pay excise tax, and we also contribute to the bike paths, I think that cars should be able to start driving on the bike paths. It would make things a lot easier. Think about it, it's direct shot. Traditional highway, essentially, people, get with it. Actually, so Philip Afonso, Precinct 9, I really love our police and fire departments and the way that you can look in a cruiser, or you can look in an ambulance, or you can look in a ladder truck, and you can wave at the person because you know who they are. I appreciate the fact that no matter what the condition is, they show up and there's no condition, and they're there to help every single one of us. The one thing that I do not like is the fact that our police and fire are extremely short-staffed. I enjoy having low taxes in Falmouth. I've owned my own home now for coming up on 2 years. I've got a 3,000 square foot house on a half an acre, and I'm paying like $2,500 a year. Go up on that, Mr. Suso. Okay, I don't need to pay anymore. I love it. I mean, I pay half of what Sandwich pays. But our police and fire are extremely short-staffed, and I think we're doing them a disservice while they're trying to help us. So.
My name is Tom Roger, East Falmouth, and I was basically going to say the same. I think the town is run very, very well, very professional from the town manager through the heads of the departments. If you look around, police and fire are very, very qualified folks. They're excellent ambassadors to the community. They provide great service. Town officials such as the beach superintendent and all the other managers do a great job here.
Ralph Herbst, Precinct 8. I'd like the agricultural history here in Falmouth to remain and continue. An example is that the town saved Tony Andrews Farm, and there's an organization that's working to help and promote that. So the agricultural history in Falmouth is important, and I'd like to see it retained.
Anybody know what this property was before it was St. Anthony's Church?
Strawberry.
Yeah, Mr. Marshall's strawberry farm.
That's right.
Right? And all of the Portuguese Catholics and Cape Verdeans in East Falmouth that had farms would take a day of harvest when they would take strawberries to market, and they put the money into a fund. And they purchased this farm from Mr. Marshall, and then they built the original portion of the St. Anthony's Church, and they applied to the diocese in Fall River to have a priest come here to have at least one mass on Sunday, which up until the 70s was in Portuguese and Latin, and now all of it is obviously in English. But if you go into this church, if you haven't been in the church before, you'll see a stained glass window, a number of them, but one of the stained glass windows is of the Portuguese and Cape Verdean strawberry farmers farming the field, and the other one is the strawberry plant itself, with the runners that run out and create the new plants. And so that's a deep agricultural history right here. We always say that St. Anthony's is the church built on strawberries.
Mary Simonelli, East Falmouth. I moved here a year ago, so I've just this past month is my year as permanent residence, purchased a home. And I'd like to say that I've loved living here for this last year. I've seen the quaintness. I appreciate all the cultural activities you have. I like the idea of, you know, everything about preserving the environment. I think it's kind of interesting to hear that you think it's real crowded here in the summer. I came from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it really is all relative, but I understand what you're saying, but I really would like to make sure that you embrace the tourists, because I feel like, although we want to keep all the quaintness, I agree with everything there, but economic development is also important, and it does keep our taxes down. I mean, I'm paying half of what I paid in taxes there for a home that is more expensive here. So I really do appreciate that, and whatever we can do to have that balance of appreciating the people who come here for those few months in the summer, because we all know the September, I already know September, the fall is a great kept secret, so we want to keep it that way here. So, but I mean, it's been a great place, and I've really enjoyed living here. But I also want to make sure we kind of clean up some of the properties on Main Street that look pretty run down, and keep it vibrant, but keep the quaintness, and all the things we do for the environment. I really think that's phenomenal.
Ron Clattenburg, Precinct 8, and lived here over 4 years, and I agree with just about what everyone has said, but one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the fact that I really like the fact there's so much small business and family-owned businesses in town. I'm a great believer in local business, and I think it's great to be able to see and interact with so many individuals in this town that own their business, and I think that's a real plus.
David Burke, 13 minutes.
Okay, we'll do a couple more.
Yeah, Bob Baker, Precinct 4. A couple of things have already been said, but I really do like the professionalism of the police and the fire department and their dedication. Somebody mentioned volunteerism. The service center, to me, when I moved here 11 years ago, I've never seen anything quite like it, and I am partially involved with it, but the work that the people do to help those that need help is incredible. And I really appreciate I love the beaches. The one thing I don't understand is why they don't get all the money that they take in, why they only get part of it. To me, that's something that they might want to look at.
Dan Shore, Precinct 6. I'll say something about the bike paths. Quickly, that we put signs up, the town put signs out on the bike path on the road. They were white, they've already washed off. If they put them in a color, I think cars would know. If you would go down Chappaquiddick Road, you cannot see on either side if anybody's coming or not. And a lot of trucks, cars don't stop, and there will be trouble sometimes. But the main thing I'd like to say is I'd like to see the Eddie Marks building used. It's the oldest building in town. We have a great history here. There is no place it's shown or anything else. I think a little museum in there, if we don't have anything else to do with it. It's a storehouse now, and it's a real crime, and the taxpayers paid a fortune to get it back in shape. So let's use it for something that will help. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna run to the next prompt, but if you want to save for our open forum at the end any additional comments that you had on this section. The next series of questions is under the category, what are your priorities for the town? Let's start with what town service is most in need of improvement, and how would you suggest that we make it better?
Joe Nettle, Precinct 9. I'll bring this up now to a couple speakers. Before, I've alluded to it, and I'll go back and use as an example, not the winter storm, and then the near fatal shooting we had. At the November town meeting, Chief Dunn got up and reminded us that the current police department is less than what we had in 2018, is less than what we had in 2008. And we experienced about 3 weeks ago, a near 2 policemen being shot in Falmouth in response. We had 2 terrific winter storms. I'm currently working with a project with the Department of Public Works, Director of Falmouth Public Library, and we have, I'm sorry, but this administration, the Board of Selectmen, have reduced the staff of the town of Falmouth such that I don't feel that we are getting the services. And if we had more people, and we seem to have forgotten people. I read the enterprise, the capital improvements coming up, and as a town meeting member, I've always supported the acquisition of equipment. But when you have equipment and you don't have people to operate it, and I think this is a very dangerous precedent. We have a combination of an assistant to the rec department and the beach department. So instead of having two people, now we're gonna have one. That I have to give you an opinion, if you read the charter, I don't think that process was followed correctly according to the charter. And I have some grave concerns on Falmouth Public Library. These Falmouth libraries had hours cut that I would like to see restored. And we seem to be on the path of projects. Let's do these big, granted, you have to buy equipment, and we have to do projects, but I think we've put the employee in a second position to the importance of the taxpayers. I don't mind paying taxes as long as I get services. You have trees down in the town of Falmouth now that'll be there next spring. The tree department has less people. The Department of Public Works has less people. We quickly go to police and fire. Yes, because of the communications, I think, at town meeting. I'm sorry, I gotta take a little time for this, but I think this is gonna come up at town meeting in the spending of money.
So
I
filling
know we have the
positions that are-
November one done.
Filling positions that are on the books but are not currently funded.
Yeah, I wonder how many positions that we've created that we haven't filled. I have to commend Chief Dunn because he spoke before something happened. That's an alarming figure. 2018, we have less, I think he said 8 or 9 policemen than we had in 2008. So, as taxpayers, it's nice, and I didn't speak at the February one, meeting got good, but I got this feeling, and no offense, it was let's pat each other on the back and say how good everybody is. I think when you bring this many people, and this is nice, but I know the issues that I hear from people that talk to me, the need of public employees. And we'll discuss it more at town meeting, I guess.
Barb Schneider, Precinct 4. My word for today is compliance. I think we lose a tremendous amount of revenue by having great policies and rules, but not having any follow-up to make sure that we are compliant with them. My examples are, we have animal control, they are wonderful people, but they do not take advantage of coming down. Their hours are such that they don't come down to the beaches at 5 o'clock when everybody knows you can run down there with your dog and let them go wild. They could make a lot of money in giving out fines or asking people. The whole purpose of that was to not have dogs on the beach in the summer. It doesn't mean they're just not there during the day, but it was supposed to be 24 hours a day. I love animals, as you all probably know. I do a lot with animals. But it is a well-known fact, I've even heard a lifeguard say, but if you come down after 5, no one will know. That's number one. In addition, they don't come to the dog park, they could come there and check on licensing. They could check on vaccinations. I held a meeting with all the dog parks on the Cape. Every other animal control officers are going to the dog parks and doing that. They're finding it to be very helpful to their relationship with dog owners. Moorings, I can tell you, I know of many that have been either dropped in illegally or people are giving their moorings to other people and no one's checking that they match. That's an easy thing to check. You can go around in an inflatable in these ponds and figure that out, and it's a nice little lump of money, and you can change up the way the culture is. Conservation. It's well known if you don't call conservation for a permit, you do your own trimming, if you're physically able, you can get away with anything. We have people on our pond that have literally napalmed their property, and it's never been anything done about it. That matters to me because in a hurricane, it is gonna matter. Those would stop. And we talked about in the last week I went to Bristol Beach and Woodneck Beach. We don't have anybody staffing the gate to take revenue or check on beach passes. That's people coming in August, not September, but in August to our beaches for nothing. And that's a lot of lost revenue, and I think, you know, with social media, it gets around real fast. No one's checking at Wood Neck, no one's checking at Bristol, and those things can be fixed. The money should come to pay for these people by what you do by collecting the revenues, it would be correct. So I say hire compliance people, make sure they're doing their jobs, and it should pay for itself many times over. That's my recommendation.
So I'm gonna piggyback on Mr. Neto's thought there, Phil Afonso, Precinct 9, again. We're down to 37 officers in the town of Falmouth right now. 37. We used to be at 9 detectives, we're at 3. We are in a heroin epidemic. Drug buys are down, drug busts are down, deaths are on the rise. I too would like to pay a little bit more in the way of taxes if it means that bad guys, number one, are gonna get arrested, which I'd like honestly to give to you and say, I'd like our legal system to start enforcing heroin addicts not get $40 bail and then sent on their way, they're murderers. So that's something you can take back to the State House with you personally. I really think that we're in trouble. I have seen, not personally, but I've seen Officer Moore's gunshot graze, as they call it. And just so everybody's clear, I have big hands. Now, if you take my middle finger, which is the thickest, longest finger on my hand, and you put that in the middle of my neck, as deep as my finger is as deep as that as that bullet went into his neck. Okay? It wasn't a graze. This is a graze. Looks like a scrape. He had a bullet 1 centimeter from blowing his spine apart. 1 centimeter. That's a real thing. Our police, they need more. The chief is quoted as saying he wants to take some of the money from this police fund after the guys were shot, and he wants to buy a fax machine, firearm training safety machine, or something similar. How can you get an accurate simulation of a firearm simulator if you have your officers short-staffed and working double, triple shifts covering details? Is the point to see how far they can get run down before they can accurately fire, before they can accurately see if, when someone does this, if it's a BB gun or a .22? I think we need to up our police, and I think we need to do it now. And they're on a contract negotiation, so I really think that the public needs to start putting pressure to get this done.
Don Weymouth, Precinct 7, and this is probably as much for you as the selectmen. Better coordination of state projects and town projects. You know, think about the Minot Bridge, and you know, that's the alternate way that all of us in East Falmouth get into town. And what's gonna happen at the same time that the state is doing the rotary stuff at Davis Straits. That example, you know, just like what what the state and the Army Corps of Engineers finally realized last week about the Bourne Bridge. Exact same type of thing.
So just real quick, so you know, this year, the Department of Transportation has just developed a database system which takes all of the local projects that the towns have put in to the state projects as well as federal highway projects, and does an overlay so they can see where these projects are happening at the same time. The proof will be in the pudding if we use the data going forward, and we're starting to use the data on the Army Corps project.
Greg Masmanian, Precinct 2. There's some redundancy here, and if you just bear with me for a minute. First, I'll talk about blocking and tackling. And basically what I mean is that rather than grandiose, large, major project, millions of dollars, we ought to really look at ourselves and say, what can we do to maintain, and specifically the DPW. I think they do a great job, okay? But there's a lot missing. Example, look at the fire hydrants. I don't want to be the house on fire that they try to open that thing up and it's rusted solid. Most of the fire hydrants in town look like they haven't been touched 20, 30, 40 years. We all know that we live in salt air. It's pretty tough on metal, Those things should be painted every year, and they should be tested probably as much as twice a year. There has been some banter, I've seen it in the paper, et cetera, that they're in a project, they're working from the outside in, et cetera. You know what, I've heard this, I got a fire hydrant right outside my house. I have never seen it flush, and I've been there for 3 years. So that's what I mean by blocking and tackling. I met with the DPW regarding Little Pond being dredged. They said, fine, we're gonna dredge it next year. It's 2 years now, it's never been dredged. Yet we spent $26 million on a sewer project to keep Little Pond healthy. Well, you can't keep it healthy if there's a sandbar sitting in front of the tidal flow. And that needs to be done and looked at and be put on some kind of schedule. That's what I mean by blocking and tackling. The second thing is, I'll go back to the police. Our association had a meeting a couple Saturdays ago, excuse me. Chief Dunn was there as a spokesperson. We asked him a series of questions, one of which is, how do you look at your resources relative to your budget, et cetera? He said he was pretty good in terms of tangible resources as it relates to cars and equipment, et cetera. But he was woefully short on headcount. And I think some numbers were just given out. And those numbers are accurate. So I asked him, I said, well, look, I got central alarm at my house. How many minutes would you judge that it would be when that central alarm goes off, when you'd be at my house? There was a large pause. And I said, why the pause? And he goes, well, I have 5 cars out on the road over 45 square miles. If I have an accident in East Falmouth, I send 2 cars. If I have an issue, let's say down in the village, I'll send 2 cars. That leaves 1 car. If that car's in North Falmouth and I'm at the Heights, he didn't give me an answer. So, protection of life and property is very important. That's what I pay my taxes for. And I just can't imagine a town with 45 square miles. We've only got 5 cars on the road. And we want to be big, it seems. We're doing all these big things like we're some huge city. We talked about quaintness, that's what we should be, but we should have adequate resources to block and tackle what we need to have as citizens.
13 minutes, Dave.
Okay.
My name is Gregory Contos, and I'm from Precinct 4. My big concern has to do with safety and security. And to that respect, I'm referring to Central Avenue. Central Avenue and Monarch Road happen to be one of the busiest thoroughfares in this town. It's a shortcut from downtown to Mashpee. It's a lovely drive. I consider it one of the prettiest drives in town. However, when we talk about Central Avenue, safety and security have to do with the need for a traffic light. A traffic light that will allow cars to go in and out of Central Avenue with safety and assurance. It's a terrible spot. I happen to live off Central Avenue and utilize that area, so I'm well experienced. At that particular junction, there's a crosswalk that doesn't exist. And there are people who use that area in fear of being run over, literally. I've gone to the town fathers and spoken to them about this situation, and like the hydrants, nothing gets done. I would like to see a survey done on Central Avenue once and for all to determine how many cars exit and enter that street and when they do that, so that we can regulate it and allow pedestrians to cross, allow drivers to go in and out safely, and be assured that they're not going to be run over. And that, to me, is very critical. Thank you.
One more in this category, and then we're going to move to another one.
Peter Hargraves, Precinct 9.
I want to thank everyone in our leadership, elected and the town management for being here. And so I appreciate those people, what they do and their expertise. And I don't want to take anyone to take my comment as a critical review of their work product. But my idea that I want to explain here briefly is coming from reading the executive summary of the February sensing and understanding a lot of people are confused about how to get access to leadership, how to have a voice from their community, and how to basically understand how our government works. And personally, as a relative newcomer, I found Falmouth is such a welcoming community, and you can do essentially whatever time allows you to do in terms of volunteering and getting involved in different activities or even running for office. So I was puzzled by those comments, but I understand them better now. And I would say I don't disagree with anything that's been said. I agree with it, but it's the sum and substance and the product of our process. And so you all.
The town of Falmouth now, that'll be there next spring. The tree department has less people. The Department of Public Works has less people. We quickly go to police and fire. Yes, because of the communications, I think, at town meeting. I'm sorry, I gotta take a little time for this.
And our process. And specifically, the suggestion is, and especially timely because we're undergoing a charter review, which is done every 7 years, is to consider that a select board member be elected by a voting district. Call it, 2 precincts, elect once each select board member with 1 at large, if we want to keep it at 5. Or we could make it 9 and have each precinct vote 1 select board member and have a larger board. All of that is within our control and ability to change, from my understanding. But I think that would give the citizens someone who is accountable to them to bring these kinds of things more consistently to the leadership who are setting priorities and guiding our choices within the town, and eliminate a lot of frustration if those leaders are not educating their constituents who elected them. They will be replaced. And I think looking at the diverse, I'm really happy with the people we have elected. But if you look at where they live, they represent 3 or 4 of the villages, which we have 7 or 8, depending on how you count it, and maybe 4 of the precincts. So I think we need to think about the structure and process to get a different result on some of these things that are being discussed.
So we were just focused on services that we want to see improvements of. Let's spend a few minutes on infrastructure. Capital projects or infrastructure that we think needs improvement in town.
All right, I'll sort of echo what has already been said a little bit. We built, can somebody give me a figure on how much we spent on the water treatment facility? 46 million. All right, so the 3 people that, besides myself, have said 46 million. I'm gonna go with that number. We have pipes in the ground from the late 1800s. Ray Jack, the director of the DPW, had told me that the pipe that goes from Main Street into Town Hall was put in the late 1890s. Most all of our pipes are held together with asbestos. Anybody know that?
No, it's not true.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a glue with asbestos.
So whatever it is,
So anyway,
clearly
so
changing
our
the
water
distribution
system has an issue. We have a high pressure, let's say we have a high pressure tank over here, and we have all of our houses here, and everything to get there are not meant for all that pressure. If you look at the Heights, for example, didn't we just have a couple of blowouts?
We had one on Main Street and the Heights on the same.
One on Main Street?
Same day, right in front of the post office.
Does anybody want to guess what's going to happen this winter when metal freezes, shrinks, expands?
So
We're
that's
going to have an issue.
part of, we know that they're talking about this East Falmouth highway project, and that's trying to coordinate one of those, replace main, what are we gonna do about the road? Coordinating them together, as you mentioned.
I think our water is, our pipes in the ground are
Distribution,
a huge problem.
But widening that up and everything is just to gain state fund. I I mean, I'd rather see the taxpayers pay for the paving and not ruin the tree-lined roads, and just to get our water pipe laid in there and get free money from the state doesn't make any sense.
The National Fire Protection Association recommends that all fire hydrants are exercised once a year and maintained every 5 years. Part of the exercise once a year is the directional flushing of a system. We've had somebody here running our DPW for 24 years. And in that time, our system has directionally been flushed once. Bourne, Mashpee, Hyannis, Sandwich have all done theirs 24 times in that period of time. As it was stated before, we got fire hydrants that haven't been done in 30 years.
She was
These
formerly water department.
these water replacements, line replacements we're talking about, are just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, our town manager's been here 7 years. In those 7 years, Sandwich, Mashpee, Bourne, Barnstable have directionally flushed their system 7 times. We've done ours 0. Our water superintendent's been here 4 years. In that 4 years, all those towns have done theirs 4 times. We've done ours 0. The bill is coming down for this, and to accept some free pavement from the state to change the face of our town and only cover the tip of the iceberg, we need to do some serious planning before we do this. And I'd just like to say, who in their right mind would have the person who ruined your infrastructure fix it? That's just reality.
Bob Donahue, Precinct 3. I would like to see a list, a published list of all the capital projects that need to be done in the town. Something that we could stick on our refrigerator. As it's done, we could scratch it off. There doesn't seem to, and there doesn't seem to be any leadership as to, one, these are, let's say, 7 projects or 10 projects that we need to be done. There's no, we're gonna do it, or we hope to do it, providing there's no other major projects come up. We'll do it in 2020, and, you know, and hold, somehow to hold the governing body accountable for not doing it in 2020, when they say they're going to. And also, in the Selectmen, there doesn't seem to be any real fervent discussion of plans and what we're going to do. And there's no, it's like you guys all get together and say, okay, we're gonna come out in a uniform group for this particular problem. Government is supposed to be muddy and dirty, and here it's dingy to pure white. Thank you.
So we do have some of the capital projects listed that are in, the annual plans are submitted to the town meeting, and they're actually online. And I don't, Mr. Susan, could you tell me how far is what we have online?
5
We
years.
go out 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20 years.
And we do it every year, and it's posted online, and it goes to the finance committee, and there's actually a presentation to the board of selectmen on Monday, as we do every year.
But how about putting it in the paper, and putting in the paper?
20 years worth of capital plans is a big document.
I know, but
it is available to the public.
Let's keep it down to a 5-year plan. 5 years, we're gonna do this.
Okay.
Something that's reasonable, 1-year plan.
Mary Harris, Precinct 5. I'd like to see a requirement that every time a street is dug up, that the utilities be buried. And particularly if we're going to dig up Route 28, I would like to see the utilities all buried. It would greatly improve the look of the town if all those telephone poles along paved streets were buried.
Bob Baker, Precinct 4.
Among other things, I'm concerned about finding a permanent home for the carousel, which a lot of people enjoy, and the profits go to the kids, and they have to take it down, put it up, take it down, put it up every year. I'd like to see the leaf dump and the landfill more accessible. Rather, it seems like every time I want to go there, it's not open, I reiterate about people who talked about fields. I've made 6 requests in 6 years for a hydrant. I do have a hunk of rust in front of my house. I have seen it flushed, I will admit, I have seen it flushed. But, I even went there once to get the paint myself, and then they said, you can't have the paint, we paint them, and I said, no, you don't. But I didn't mean to be fresh, but I was. Housing, I think, is a huge issue that hasn't been mentioned a lot here, but I think it's a huge issue here. And also, I think sometimes we need development, and sometimes I think we're too quick to say no. And I think we said no to a hotel real fast downtown, and now we're looking at a mess on Lantern Lane, and we would have been much better off with a hotel than what we're trying to fight now. And I also think we have a need for it, to be honest with you. And I think it does go along with a lot of the tourism and commercial. That's how a lot of people make money here. And but I think we were way too quick to say no to that. And I think sometimes we shouldn't be so quick to do that.
This will be no surprise, I rise to speak about my beaches. I'm not pleased with the maintenance of beaches. We can do so much more. I'm an old-fashioned guy. My mother used to say, if somebody was coming to the house, we had to clean them up. We had to get the dishes done, the best ones out, make sure we got the cobwebs out of the corners, that kind of thing. Tomorrow's road race Sunday, and my beaches aren't ready, because we're not maintained correctly. Now, I speak with the DPW all the time. I work very closely with them. They're responsible for my beach maintenance. They don't have the staff. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the trucks. They have the desire, but they don't have the ability. So I rise and ask you, please, for support for the beaches, and the maintenance department of the DPW. Maybe the DPW is being asked to do too much. Maybe the DPW needs to know how much we feel they are important, and maybe they need to help prioritize for us what they can and can't do, and organize some funding around that. I want the beaches to be better than they are right now, and I think they can be, but I need some help and I need some money. Thank you.
This is, next category is more generic.
Could I just take
Real quick,
comment?
yeah, real quick, and then we're gonna go to the next category.
Yeah, what we should do really, and as Mr. Magato just said, is go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
That's, the beach department had its own maintenance crew. Right now, the beach department's maintenance crew doesn't have it, it's under the DPW. So you're asking the DPW, in the busiest time of the year, there was a move that was made under a prior town administrator. And I asked you, Mrs. Moran, that that's what you should look at. Consolidation is great on paper, and it's hard to defeat on paper. The day you just heard, a living example, and the beaches, when they had its own maintenance department, was in much better shape than they are today. And that's the basic theme that's coming here, is we don't have the people to run this town on the streets. I don't think we have a shortage of town hall, I have to say that. But the blue collar workers, and it's starting to show. The report that you accepted, I can't remember what was done on the DPW. I've read it numerous times. You guys are following it. It's not working because it was done by consultants from who knows where. The matrix studies. Thank you, Mr. Finneman. I've read it extensively. You've gotten rid of the positions that the matrix did. But you want to make one improvement over the winter, go back, look at putting a maintenance crew into the beach department that they run. I don't even want to ask you. You don't have the time right here for Mr. Magato to give you the protocol of when he needs something repaired to what he has to do. And then when things go, that's what you're seeing in your fields. You're yelling and screaming at the parks and recreation because your athletic fields. Well, we haven't given them, we've taken away the employees. I gotta sit down, but this has disturbs me for the last couple of years. and it's starting to show. And I won't vote for any more money at town meeting. I'm gonna ask my other town meeting members to start to take a stand. Because what we don't spend on some of the projects, we'll put back into the people. And I don't think we want a town meeting where we start creating positions. We almost saw it. But that's what you could end up with, and that's a chaotic town meeting. So, you listen to these people in East Falmouth, this isn't the same meeting that you heard up at the high school, the first one. You're hearing a message, and I hope when you put that budget together for April, that you listen to what these taxpayers are telling you.
The next category is, what do you find most challenging about living in Falmouth? What do you find most challenging about living in Falmouth?
Well, parking. And
Parking?
yes, and while I understand that there's possibly something to be done about parking downtown, I think if I read the plan correctly, that people, and I'm not quite sure that, so, but I thought I read something about a plan that says you cannot park on Main Street anymore, and we will have parking lots off-site, off-Main, and you can take a bus. If that's the case, then I feel that most assuredly takes away from the small town aspect of this town, the convenience for the citizens of this town being able to park and run in. So while I might say, yes, added more parking, I would probably, hope that we wouldn't take away the parking on Main Street.
Joe Quincy, what I find the most challenging is we went through major storms this winter, and not one branch could be brought into our leaf bin. All the other towns opened an area where if you had trees down, you had limbs down, you had branches, you brought them to the DPW site. They had, not ours. And on Blacksmith Shop Road, he's closed on Saturdays. Here's the working people that are paying taxes cannot drop branches on them. What are they doing? They're throwing them on the side of the road. Okay? I found that very challenging. All right? So now you gotta hire somebody to dispose of them. I have to hire a truck to come in and take them to Blacksmith Shop Road, which is fine. He's making money. But why isn't our town supporting the taxpayers? I find that horrible and disgusting.
In addition to what this gentleman said, or they throw them over the embankment on Great Bay Street, because that's where all the garbage is going. And unfortunately, there's stairs that were damaged over the winter. We went to speak to someone and nobody knew anything. Someone said they may scheduled to be repaired, and then I find out they had no intentions of repairing it. So you have broken stairs, a cone with a danger sign by the stairs, with children all summer long that I had to move away from the embankment, because if someone falls and gets hurt, this town will get sued. But nobody seems to care. I call them, I go to town to try to talk to somebody, get an answer about the horrible erosion that's there, that people are boating, tourists, and this is what they have to look at, broken down stairs that were leading to the dock. It's like totally ignored. Dolores Francis. And before too long, we're forced to get a sewer. We just had, 3 years ago, state-of-the-art septic system there, because we thought that was the right thing to do. We go to town and get a permit. If you knew you were getting a sewer, why would you get us to get a permit and lose $15,000? That's where we're at, on Great Bay Street.
It's John Thompson. One of the things I find challenging around here is we went to the losing power too long. I'm over on Chico, so it seems like the middle of the storm, power's gone. I'd like to know what can be done for the town structure. Let's put National Grid, whoever supplies us, that there's gotta be a reason why they're losing it like that. I mean, the wind blows, my power's gone. And area storms, we don't have it for.
You said you're out to Seacoast?
Yeah, some on Seacoast.
Brandon O'Hara, East Falmouth. I guess the thing I find most challenging is that all of these things people spoke about today are gonna cost money. And we're gonna lose $20 million on our wind turbines. I think the most important thing to do, the most challenging thing to do, turn on the turbines. Our lawyer can't get it through the court, let's get a better lawyer. But we can't spend $20 million to take down perfectly good wind turbines that the town voted for originally, voted for to not pay to take them down, and everyone's, we voted for it. I think it's time just to turn them back on and deal with the consequences.
The general challenges.
The one thing I'm hearing, and as a person involved in town government and volunteerism and everything, I'm hearing everybody admit that their taxes are really low, and that they see Falmouth as a bargain, even for those compared to towns around us. And what is really difficult as a person involved in voting at town meeting and trying to do what you're asking is that it isn't like being on America's Got Talent and being able to pull it out of your sleeves. It takes money to do what you're asking. And it is very hard to be in a town where everyone expects it to be a bargain on your tax bill, and yet they have as high a demand for services as any town around. And I understand people came here with an expectation, but the expectation is no different than your checkbook and your budget, and it is that we have a budget, you mandated you wanted it low, and it's gonna cost us in what we're allowed to get for services. I work with this all the time in different ways, and I find it challenging, and I wish somebody could explain how they think we can get all these things without taxes going up.
Competent people.
And your precinct 6. We have a moraine in town. And people live on that side, mainly West Falmouth. We don't get cell phones. We can't guarantee that our cell phone's gonna work at any time. We have beaches there that people, the beach committee has cell phones if there's an emergency. Sometimes they don't work. And I think a cell tower would be a wonderful thing. That we're gonna take down the turbines, which I don't wanna do, but still, we could make a cell tower out of it. And I like my cell phone, but I cannot use it in my house, and people continue to call me and say, you don't call me back. Well, you don't call me.
Judy Fenwick, Precinct 1, and I'm glad you're doing this today to encompass a larger circle of the town. I think the most challenging thing for me is the ability of this community to educate, recruit, and retain volunteers for town-appointed boards. And I would be curious to see by a raising of hands who in this group is serving currently on some town board.
If you're currently serving on a town board or committee?
Appointed, not elected.
An appointed board by the selectmen.
And are there people who would like to get involved on a community board? Okay, so not overwhelming numbers, but
Well, we have as many hands up that want to serve as are serving, so that's actually, at least in this group, that doubles our pool.
So-
Can I just take 1 second? The openings in those positions that are appointed by the selectmen, and actually civic engagement is our next category, is available on the website. You can pull off an application for applying for a committee, and then you can go through and look at all of the different committees that are available and what vacancies exist. So for those of you that raise your hand, you're interested, we're interested as well as a community of having you put an application in for a committee that is of interest to you.
and I appreciate that on this, or do you want me to hold it to
No, no,
civic
go ahead.
engagement? Okay. The part about educating is not asking people to go to a website to find something out. It is, to recruit people is not asking them to go to a website to get an application to fill something out, unless they know more about it. And I know that the previous charter review committee put forward a recommendation to selectmen, which they observed, about doing a committee handbook so that people would know more about how a committee should run in town. but it doesn't fill in the huge gap of what the content is for what committees are there, what they do, what the time commitment is, and then how to get appointed. So it's sort of filling in a gap of how many appointed committees do we have in town? 30, 40, the number fluctuates. Developing a list, and not necessarily on the website, but in some publication that people can get their hands on. What does the Transportation Committee do? How many members does it have? How long can they serve? Just, you know, to fill in, so if people are curious, they can get the information.
Let me go there and I'll come back.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Chair.
One thing I want to say following that is, all committee meetings are open. You can go, you can see what it's like, you can find out if you would like to be on it. And please go to them. They're in the paper.
Okay, so I'm gonna piggyback a little bit off of what Ms. Fenwick had said. Our information sharing in this town is pathetic. We base we put it in the enterprise. Well, it's on the website. I'm gonna ask somebody a random question, random person. Sir, you with the glasses. Do you know when the selectmen meet?
Do I?
No, next to you.
Do I know when they meet? I
Yes.
read it in the paper.
I'm asking you what day, when do they meet
I
specifically?
read the paper and I see when they meet.
Okay,
So I don't know the date.
No, and I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, I
No, you
apologize.
just did, so I'm answering your question.
Okay.
All right?
What I
So
meant-
how do I get my?
What I was looking for is every
I read
other
it in the
Monday.
paper.
I think the point is that you read in the paper, you see when it comes.
Right.
And the next category that we're gonna go into is, what are the barriers to these participation in government? And how do you best get your information? So can I use you as a segue to this?
Yes.
And then we'll come back on this, because here's a series of questions around the civic engagement. Do you attend town meeting or watch it on TV? Why or why not? What are the barriers that prevent you from participating? Not others, but you individually from participating in town government. What is your preferred way to receive information from the town? And how well informed do you feel you are about the affairs and what's going on in the town government? So that's sort of a category of questions relative to the civic engagement. So you want to touch on each of those or one of them? How do you get your information? Are you participating? Why not? What's preventing you? How do you feel? If you're
Well, I would just like to make a statement. I'm Kristen Moritz from Precinct 2. One of the barriers for me continuing participation is harassment. If you have ever served on a committee in town and taken a controversial stand, as I did on the Energy Committee, and been harassed, as I have been online or personally face-to-face, that for me particularly would mean that I would never again serve on a committee. And that's something, if you are educating people about serving on town committees, that should be a consideration and a discussion and how you deal with it. Some people may be more able to deal with it than others. I fully admit that, I'm not. So I would never again serve on a committee.
Again, you know, this is more of a above the treetops type of suggestion, but having observed the process for appointment, where citizens comes before the board and gets interviewed, for many people, I think that can be a difficult thing to do. Not for the people who are on our committees and boards. I've never met so many assertive, well-spoken people as those who are living in Falmouth, but we might consider creating a lower stake position for entry into committees, maybe a 6-month probationary association without too much public exposure. Because I've seen people decide after 1 or 2 meetings that they really don't want to do that. And I think there's a matter of pride and commitment to following through. If we had a low stake opportunity for people to say, for 6 months be on this board, and then be affirmed by the selectmen because they have the appointing authority, then that might be a better process to suck more people in. Frankly, if you watch an appointment interview, some people might even consider it intimidating. I mean, I don't, but some people might.
I think some of the problems that these people have stated about committees could be addressed with term limits of 10 years. I mean, you've done your 10 years on one committee, doesn't mean you don't have to serve, go on to another committee. Because a lot of committees are very tight, and if you join the committee, you have almost no hope for change. You almost don't get listened to in many instances, so people just quit.
We have 9 years
It's
now.
only 9.
Well, yeah, but they're 1 year and you're gone, so the vice chairman becomes chairman, and then the next year the chairman comes back.
No, it's 9 years and you're on.
Well, let me,
No, it's not.
you're both
You're
wrong.
off for 1
Stop,
year, and
stop.
then you, wait a minute, I'm just.
It's 9 consecutive years.
Yep.
And then after the consecutive term limit's been hit, at any break in service, you can be reappointed up for 9 consecutive.
Yeah, after that.
So
So many
he's
committees.
talking about a term limit of 10 years, and then you can only
Period,
serve
and
on
go to
2.
another committee, because I'm on a committee. And now, we got a new chairman finally, and we've done more in the last year and a half or 2 years than I think happened in the last 27 years. And it's something that you should really try, because some of these committees just, they're the same as they were 10 years ago. And they have their own ideas, and there's nothing wrong with fresh blood, fresh ideas. And if you really want to serve, go to a different committee.
So, piggyback on some of this, my name is Lynn Rhodes, Precinct 8. One of my barriers is internet access. I have what is supposed to be really great access, and it's a nightmare. And I mean, I have a new computer, so getting internet access here to the Cape would be great. In terms of my trying to get on committees are at 4:30 or during business hours. I work off Cape. I can't get here unless I'm speeding and breaking the law back to the Cape until 6 or 5:30. So most committees are during business hours, so, or at 4 o'clock, 4:30. So there's no consideration for those who actually can't find employment on the Cape and have to go off Cape to find work. You know, if the committees were at different hours, you know, and the other piece is, if it's too late, like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I mean, I have to get up at 5 to get to work. So there's that balance there of trying to figure out times that people can have meetings.
In terms of how do I get my information, I try to listen on TV, I certainly read the paper, but having considered a couple of committees and gone to a couple of meetings for those committees and been asked, you know, go ahead and join those committees, 2 things stop me. Before I even think about joining a committee, I want to know what the committee does and are they effective? Time is just, you know, it's just too valuable. So in my quest to find out if the committee is, what do they do and are they effective, I've gone online to various committees to look for information in your document center, and all I ever get are agendas. And when a couple of them, very few, have meeting minutes, and they go, maybe the last one is 2012. So in terms of how do we get our information, it would, I think, be very helpful if the meeting minutes were kept up. You know, then your electorate would be informed, what are you doing? And the other thing for sure for me is I will not go to the selectmen and stand up in front of the selectmen. I just don't do it. So I like Mr. Harper's idea of maybe, you know, another process.
Joe Punzanieri, I'm on the Common Veterans Council. I'm on it for a few years. I personally am probably sticking my foot up to my knee in my mouth. I don't know who I'm selecting representative is for our committee. It's supposed to be a representative from the selectmen.
It's a common problem.
Okay? I really don't care if we get their support, because we're supporting veterans. We'll go out and help the veterans. I don't think we're getting support from the top. And if we are, it's minimal. You know? Yeah, we meet at 4 o'clock. We're fortunate that I'm retired, there's a few other retirees. We can make these timeframes. Some of the people, we like to get more, switch around. And if you want my job, thank you. I've been doing it for a few years now. You can help a veteran, but I work against that time frame. Okay? You have to present yourself in front of the select. Some people don't speak well or present themselves well. but they're the ground roots workers. They'll get it done. And as far as what I see of appointments, it's who the selectmen want. It is a closed door. Well, I don't want him and him and him, or we'll vote for him and her. And I don't agree with that. That's my problem with some of the committees in town. They're supposed to be telling the selectmen, this is what we think, this is what we want, this is what we need. Look at the waste management. They've given us suggestions. Thank you very much, and puts in a folder. Like the service goes from our part. That's my problem. And I don't care if I don't get the support from the selectmen, because we're helping veterans. And that's what's counting. I can look at the veteran and say, I can do this. When the selectmen come down and say, oh, you're doing a good job. What? Where are you supposed to be? Well, I might read the agenda or the minutes. I'll come into the meeting and see what we're doing. Mail.
I didn't make that happen.
Perfect. Judy Fenwick, Precinct 1. I've heard a couple of organizations in town complimented here today, and I'd like to re-mention them. The 300 Committee, the Falmouth Service Center, and I'd like to add VIPS. Those are all volunteer organizations, and each one of them has a volunteer who is a volunteer coordinator. So maybe that is an example that the town might want to look at, to establish a volunteer position to help with coordinating the volunteers that are coming through, and then feed to the select.
Yep.
Bob Donahue, Precinct 3. I think this whole thing is on committees. I think gentleman's right. People want to get involved, but they feel like, well, I don't know anybody I don't know any of the selectmen personally, so I can't ask them to appoint me. Or it's a fixed thing. They know who they want, and they'll put their people in. Rather than it being really advertised that we want it. And I think, here again, there's no real news, without a few exceptions, that come out of the selectmen's meeting. You never hear that Doug Jones walked out of the meeting Monday night in disgust of what
There's not enough paper.
Doug, you have an assignment for Monday night. Make the news.
I only pick on Doug because I really is a friend. But, and what I'm saying is that the enterprise will print it if there's something to be said. But there's nothing of really news orientation that they print unless there's some big
Firestorm.
Thank you. So I suggest that even if all of the selectmen are uniform on a particular thing, two of you should take the opposite view just to be contrary, just to have discussion.
Just to make a good article in the newspaper.
No, what it does is it brings to the attention of people what's going on if there's discussion.
Let's take our last 15 minutes to go to that general open category if it wasn't a topic that we've done with the ticklers, and we've got about 15 minutes to do that.
Hi, Precinct 2. I meant to try to get this into your first category, but I didn't get called on. That is that I'd like the town planning board, and the board of selectmen to continue to create a positive atmosphere for solar in our town. For example, I have heard, and I know this is true from the planning board, that they are considering a moratorium on ground mounted solar to be an article on town meeting. I respect the town planning board and particularly the board of selectmen for their commitment to solar, but I don't think a moratorium gives a very issues, and I'm really hoping that the town planning board and the board of selectmen can continue to create a positive atmosphere in town rather than make critical comments or be negative.
So anybody hasn't spoken yet, and then we'll go back. Yep.
Something we haven't talked about, and I'm a little bit surprised it's at the end of the meeting, is our schools. And Falmouth schools rank very high in this state. Our testing scores are incredible. And that starts at a very young age in kindergarten, and it builds and builds right up to graduating from high school. We send our students to excellent, excellent colleges. We start a program when they are 3 and 4 years old, just to organize them for what's coming. I don't have enough positive words to talk about the school system as I could talk about Falmouth. And I think maybe in this meeting of everything that happens in the town has been very good for all of us to hear. But be very proud of your schools.
I live off Mara Vista Extension. My name is Janet Valley, Precinct 3. I'm very concerned about Mara Vista Extension and Mara Vista. It is a speedway. I walk dogs there all the time. Children walk to school. I don't know if there needs to be more signage. I know the police department patrolling that area is difficult because there's not enough of them. I just would like to see something done about that. I walk dogs, the kids, many people can't stop on that road if there were a dog dart out or a child dart out. They wouldn't be able to stop. And I walk it all the time.
David, could I just respond to that with the T-Ticket Civic Association in that we have been in contact with the police department requesting the speed trailer, we requested radar. Unfortunately, due to the staffing and
Yep.
higher priority items.
How about a speed bumper too?
Yeah, my name's Bob Pascali. I live in T-Ticket. I was going to say the same thing this woman said about the school system. Even though I didn't have children and don't have children who went through the school system, I'm relatively new. I'm president of Rotary Club in Falmouth, and we're very big supporters of the school system, and we see terrific students who we are able to honor every now and then, and it's really just a wonderful resource for Falmouth. As far as capital projects, we know that the playground up by the senior center is going to need to be replaced. There was an article in the paper a couple weeks ago about the inclusive playground that's being supported by the Commission on Disabilities and the Rec Department, and we did get some go-ahead from the town, but I just want to let people know that that's going to be a very important thing coming down, this idea of an inclusive playground, something to keep in mind.
The first-time speakers first, and then we'll go back.
Sean Hunt, Precinct 4. I guess one of the things that I'm concerned about is in our waterways is the cohogs. Where I know we've just had a committee formed that's going to have 2 commercial cohoggers, a couple of recreational cohoggers in the town, but it seems that the town, particularly in the harbor master's office, is more geared to becoming Wellfleet and developing oysters than it is, developing our natural resource that we already have right here, which is the cohogs. That's my concern.
Dean Lundgren, Davisville. Could somebody comment a little bit on what plans are, or what's going to happen to the old Minot Bridge, which is very dangerous, and the beach and the bridge, and I mean, I know it's a complicated thing, but is anything underway? That's a serious safety issue.
I mean, we don't have the resources today to get into detail, but maybe the association.
Well, we can take an email, and, with that question, there is
Follow it up.
some information on the website, but, in fact, we'll just take note of it now to save you the email step, but if you can give your contact info, we'll get back to you, give you some specifics.
Thank you.
See first, anybody else hasn't spoken yet today? Okay. we'll go around with the seconds.
Yeah, Bob Baker, 4. On the issue of challenging, as a town meeting representative, I know that we've been hearing for years and years and years, we keep putting more money and more money and more money into stabilization, so that it's now at a pretty good level, I believe, and because of that, we get this very high bond rating. But the opposite side of that is a lot of what we've heard here today, that because we put so much money into that, which I'm not saying isn't necessary, but because we do that, we can't hire people. And therefore, we have this department and that department and this department and that department, that it's all has staffing problems. I also recognize that almost anybody who's in charge of a department will tell you, we need more people. And, you know, you go to town meeting, and I know this is the problem with the finance committee and the town manager and the select people, is that they can't honor everybody's request, and they have to kind of balance it all, and I appreciate all that they go through that. But I do know that as a town meeting member, it's going to be very, very challenging for us, and I would like to start looking at, you know, let's not put so much money aside, and let's hire some people who can take care of some of these things that everyone else wants done, because I think we've got to a pretty good level with that. The other point is that I don't understand all of this about the rotary and the widening. I mean, I know that if we made Route 28 3 lanes in each direction, it would make it a lot easier to get around. I also know it would ruin the town. And I keep looking at this, and I keep looking at these huge trees that are gonna have to come down. And also, I'm downtown a lot, and I don't understand why this roundabout is so necessary. I don't have that much trouble getting around by, is that Friendly still there? But, you know, but I don't have that much trouble getting around there, and I'm saying, you know, are we just looking for something to do? I mean, is the state just looking for somewhere to spend money? I don't understand it all. I mean, yeah, it's a little hard to get around, so you go the back ways. Or if you live here, you don't do those downtown errands on the weekend. But that's what this community is. You know, it's a resort community, and you have to learn how to deal with all of it. But I just think it's an awful lot of money to spend to ruin a whole area.
Yeah, so brief comment on sensibility and accountability. And the focus is, there's a tract of land on the corner of Alma and Worcester Court that's being marketed as 7 lots for homes. The current proposal is to put 28. Now this land abuts Little Pond, which we just spent $26 million, by the way. You know, it all came out of our nickel as residents to put in sewer. And there was a bylaw that said there should be neutral flow into the sewer system, yet we're going from 7, which is the current zoning, to 28. And the big reason is that we're gonna put in 40B housing, which is less than 15% of the housing that's being proposed for that lot. So when I think about like accountability and good judgment, I just shake my head. Now, this has not been approved yet, but it's being proposed. The zoning board has taken a look at it, has offered some, hey, you need to change this developer, et cetera. But it looks like 28 homes are gonna go in there. And we were so concerned about 1,400 homes polluting Little Pond, so we put in a $26 million sewer. By the way, there's only 40% of us that live there year round, okay? Yet we're gonna put in 28, we're gonna negate the bylaw that was already established on neutral flow, just because, oh, we need 40B in the town. Yeah, we do need 40B, but it's less than 15% of the homes being proposed. So, you know, clearly a money play that doesn't make any sense. There's density issues, there's environmental issues, et cetera, but it would appear we're gonna ignore that.
Doing the same thing in Spring Barsboro.
I want you to think about this for a minute. 1976, I was in Falmouth Fire Department. We had 10 people on duty. 10. Well, we had close to 100 volunteer firefighters. This is 2018. We got 10 firefighters on duty. Back when I had it, we had a Cadillac for an ambulance. 1 ambulance, now we have 3. You call for an ambulance, they're gonna go. Your neighbor down the street needs a fire truck. Maybe they'll have a person come in off duty to drive that fire truck to your house. Think about that, people. 10 people on duty. That's counting the officers. You're an officer.
That's 5 stations.
That's right. West Falmouth, I was out in West Falmouth. before a house fire. I'm by myself on the truck. Thank God I got Coleman coming in. If the ambulance went out of North Falmouth and West Falmouth headquarters today, you're on that truck by yourself. What can one firefighter do in that house? Life safety probably. But the rules change. You don't go in by yourself anymore. You might be laying on the floor, getting smoked, and the firefighter's out there who wants to go in, he can't go in. Think about that, folks. If you want a police officer to come to your house, I told my kids, tell them your house is on fire, because the police will respond. Because the police don't have enough manpower. DPW doesn't have enough. 200 committee's great. They buy land. Who has to maintain it? DPW. It should be a neutral factor. You want the land, find out how you're gonna maintain it and cut the grass. Thank you.
Frank Howard, with a T-ticket. I don't know my district. I just moved here 2 years ago. But I've lived and owned houses in Florida, Oklahoma, Indiana, and now here. I moved to this area because of the small town feel. And I knew that the summers, just like in Panama City, Florida, where I have a house, it's a tourist town. Kind of concerned with the, I think, misappropriation or misstrategic direction of the town when it's coming to road widening and infrastructure improvements that deter from the tourist attraction that's here. I think people come here once for the beaches and then stay for the small town ambiance that's here, which is why I actually bought a house and I live here full time now. And so I think that we need to, one, obviously address the infrastructure issues, but I think it needs to be done in a smaller, more cost-effective manner and not comply with the state.
Ron Clattenburg, again, Precinct 8, but I also serve as officer for the Chum Valley property owners. It's over 200 homes that are in our association, and a couple of our homeowners have chickens, and there's never been any complaints about it, but the concern that some have is whether or not the zoning regulations would allow homes to have large livestock. We're aware of another situation in East Falmouth where there's 4 horses on a very small 1 acre piece of property. It's not fair to the homeowners and the association. It's not fair to the animals if livestock is allowed when there's no distances to neighbors, no distances to wells, and a better definition of what is acceptable on property.
All right, we're at 10:30.
Yeah, I know this gentleman just had his hand up quite a bit, so maybe if we could just take one last comment.
My name is Tom Roger. I live on Bayside Drive in Seacoast Shores portion of East Falmouth. Bayside Drive, for those of the folks that know it or don't know it, is the main road to the beach in Seacoast Shores. Seacoast Shores hosts 900 homes. We have an association there, approximately 300 members. About 600 members, 600 residents are non-members. Bayside Beach, ever since I've been a baby, has been the area that everyone in Seacoast Shores, goes to. They don't drive to other beaches. It's close. It's family friendly and so forth. Recently in August, the association voted to conceptually approach the town with regards to taking over Bayside Drive to the beach. And I'm opposed to that. I think there's 600 residents opposed to it. The reason being is, public safety wise, conceptually their plan is to ask the town if they can do plantings, build a 3-foot path to the water, and eventually take over the beach. Well, every resident in Seacoast Shores has deeded rights to recreational areas, which is in fact the beach. People are up in arms. The association has divided the neighborhood, and the president of the association is now going to town departments, including the town manager and so forth, and asking permission to in fact do these plantings, take over Bayside. In the mid-40s, the Corps of Engineers used Washburn Island as a training area. And Bayside Drive is 52 feet in width. It's still the largest road in Seacoast Shores. It was developed that way for military vehicles to get on and off Washburn Island. What they did was, when they were through with their maneuvers in the mid-40s, they blew up the bridge and they gave it to the town of Falmouth. They don't give it to associations, they don't give it to neighbors, they gave it to the town of Falmouth. That has been in existence since the mid-40s. We do not want the town of Falmouth, because someone likes plantings, to give that road to the water to the association, so that eventually they can develop a gate and tell everyone that they have to be members to their club or whatever it is. So I'm trying to say loud and clear, there has to be town officials listening that conceptually this plan is not good. It's not a good public safety plan. We've had drownings since I've been alive at the beach at Bayside Drive. We've had fires at Washburn Island. Falmouth Fire and Police need access to that water. It's the closest point to get to Washburn Island. It's not Bosun's or Edwards Boat Yard. It's not what they call the point near Minot. If there's a large fire conflagration on Washburn Island, Falmouth Fire need to get into Bayside Drive to put inflatables or whatever to get over to Washburn Island. If someone drowns, they need more than a 3-foot path with a gate at the end of it to get to that beach. So I'm asking town officials to listen up. Do not give away Bayside Drive. Thank you very much.
I want to thank everyone for coming today and for participating. We're going to have Megan do a wrap-up, but I just want to let you know, we heard a lot about the roundabout on this 28 project. We've heard a lot about the roundabout in North Falmouth, which the Board of Selectmen and the DPW and the Fire and Police talked about. But there's some engineer at Mass DOT that loves roundabouts and wants to put them everywhere, no matter what your police chief says, no matter what your fire chief says, no matter what your Board of Selectmen say. So just to be on the record, I am opposed to the current state plan for this East Falmouth corridor. If you want a bikeway and a bike path on one side and work this in and keep the character of East Falmouth, that's fine. But we don't need two 12-foot bike paths on both sides. Get off your bike, walk across the street, but don't come to Falmouth. That's what I'm
How David really holds back. I just wanted to say thank you again to all of you, the full board. You know, we didn't do a big introduction at the beginning just to get started, make sure we used our time, but I do want to note that everyone from the Board of Selectmen is here. Sam Patterson, Doug Jones, Doug Brown, who was our greeter at the door. Of course, Sue and I are here. Town Manager Julian Suso is here. Assistant Town Manager Peter Johnson-Staub. Thank you again for all of the refreshments. And thank you to Phyllis for furiously trying, I saw her shaking her fingers with cramps, trying to keep up with everything, so thank you, Phyllis.
Megan, excuse me.
Yes.
Town meeting members are also here.
I know, I'm gonna actually, you're always ahead of me, just, you always, I also wanna say, if you're a department head or you work for the town, could you just stand so folks can see? We have some representatives from the staff here. Thank you, Tom Bob. Also, we have town meeting members. If you're a town meeting member, could you guys stand up? Thank you. Thank you. A big piece that we heard from February was that individuals didn't know where their town meeting members were or didn't feel like they could connect with them. So we really worked hard to try and make sure that you, town meeting members, were able to come say thank you so much for hearing that and showing up. That's a really big deal, and we'll continue to push that along. If you weren't able to share something today, or if you think of something else or a follow-up, please send it in the message part of the email. Just put listening session, and we'll do exactly what we did last time, is take some time to compile all of that, put it together, put it in a document that we then use again just to craft our agenda. Some of the items from February have already been implemented. Others have already been focus issues that we put on our agenda to look at. So we really are going to take this and continue with it. And yeah.
What email address are we
If you go to the town website, I can't even tell you mine, cause it's so long, cause I have two
Selectmen.
last names.
It's not easy?
It's Selectmen.
It's not easy?
My name
Is that
isn't
what you mean?
easy.
None of the websites are easy?
The other, no, the
Selectmen
town.
at falmouthmass.us.
You can just send it to that.
Falmouthmass.us.
Yeah. And it'll go to all of us, so, yep, Joe?
I'd like to thank those people that are not town officials first. Those citizens that in February, some of people that stood up and came here. I'm a town meeting member, and it's nice to hear that sometimes some of these ideas I have aren't that wacky that some of the others have.
Nobody said that here today.
So it's not
true
about
that.
But also, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen for having, whenever you bring a bunch of people together,
Especially this film.
especially these guys. And you got the reception you expected, I think.
Thank you. No, this was, and that's a great point. That's the last thing I want to end on is the point of kind of moving it from, we had the first one in February at the high school. The idea is, that was the first time we were doing it, kind of a central spot for everyone to come to. This isn't meant to be divisive because we're in East Falmouth. We can hear, there are lots of people from other parts of town that are here. But it was meant to focus on a part of town that, one thing we heard in February was that, sometimes East Falmouth feels like their voice isn't heard. So, we wanted to come to East Falmouth, make it a little bit easier. Just the symbolism of showing here we are, we want to hear from this part of town. Doesn't mean it's exclusive of any other part, but we can do that. We can, each part of town has some pieces that are just a little bit particular to it. We've heard about some projects that are specific to this part of town that are concerning to people, and that's why we're here today. We'll continue with another listening session, several months down the road, and it'll likely be in another part of town, and it again will, hopefully bring forth some other ideas and concerns. So thank you. Good luck with traffic, and and take some food and coffee and bagels.